Hi, Charles Sizemore here. I'm going to talk about 401ks again today, but it's not going to be a nag. Don't worry. I'm not just going to wag my finger at you and tell you to save more money. That was last time. This time I'm going to get a little bit more technical. I'm going to ask the question, should you always try to max out your 401k early? And the reason I ask this is I have really smart readers who ask really good questions and always keep me on my toes. When I mentioned in the last video that I had already maxed out my 401k for the year, and I was encouraging you all to do the same, she wrote in and she asked, well, hold on now. If you're maxing out your 401k early, doesn't that mean you're foregoing the employer matching? If you can no longer contribute to the plan because you've already maxed it out, does that mean that the employer matching stops too? And the answer is it depends, but it can. In my case, it doesn't matter. If I were to hypothetically max out the 401k, the full 18,500 in the first month, January, if I were to max it out by mid-year, or if I were to literally space it out with every paycheck so that I max it out on December 31st, fully 12 months into the year, it doesn't matter. I get the same matching in any event, and that's because my employer does what's called a true-up calculation. Early next year, they're going to reconcile all the 401ks. They're going to check for people that maxed out early, like I did, and they're going to adjust the matching amount for me, for us, for everybody. What that means is sometime in probably the first quarter of next year, I'll get an additional employer matching that settles the accounts, right? So that's fine. I have no risk of if I max out my account early, I have no risk of losing out on employer matching. Now, not every account is like that, though. So that's something you do need to discuss with your 401k administrator or your company's HR department, because in some cases, if it's perhaps a smaller employer, an older plan, perhaps a less sophisticated plan, or what have you, you could be in a situation where as soon as you quit contributing to the 401k plan, because perhaps you've maxed it out, you no longer get the employer matching. So no matter how much I like maxing out my 401k early, I would never do that if it meant I would forego employer matching. Because at the end of the day, the employer matching is the single best aspect of the 401k plan. It's free money. In addition to the tax break you get, of course, it's free money. You should never do anything that would put free money at risk. So again, to summarize and clarify, you should ask your employer, your HR department, whoever's in charge of the 401k, ask them how the matching works. If you max out your account early, you max out your contributions early, the full 18,500 or 24,500 if you're 50 or older. If you max that out early, does that affect your matching from the employer? And if they say yes, the way that we do the math, if you quit contributing because you've already maxed it out, the matching stops. Well, if that's the case, then don't max out your 401k early. If that's the case, do the math and spread it out over all 12 months. I think you'll find in most cases, most 401k plans do some sort of true-up calculation to where it's not a problem, but you need to confirm that that's the case with yours. Now, assuming that your employer is like mine and they do that calculation to reconcile everything there at the end of the year, what are the other benefits of maxing out your 401k plan early? For me, it comes down to seasonal stuff, for lack of a better word. If you make your paycheck smaller at the beginning of the year because you're putting a larger amount into your 401k plan, that kind of sets the stage well for the rest of the year. You're making yourself be more disciplined. You're making yourself live off of a smaller paycheck. It's a really good way to start the year. I'm not a big believer in New Year's resolutions because nobody ever keeps them. I mean, I don't know that I've ever kept a New Year's resolution, but something like pledging to save more via your 401k plan, that's not really a New Year's resolution. That's just a mouse click. You can do that. You can set that up, and then it's not really up. It's automatic at that point. Now, what was the benefit of doing that and having it max out a little bit early? So let's say you max out the 401k, you get that full 18,500 in there by September or October. Your paychecks are going to get a lot bigger in November and December. Once the money that was being pulled out, whether it's $1,000 a paycheck, 500, whatever it is, If that money is no longer coming out of your paycheck and going into the 401k, well, it's staying in your paycheck. Your paychecks are going to get bigger. Well, it's nice to have bigger paychecks in November and December because that's when Christmas is. That's when Hanukkah is. That's when you have presents to buy. That's when you have vacations to plan, or not vacations, but family travel to plan. It's nice if your paychecks get a little bit bigger there towards the end of the year. Now, if there's ever a time of year where you just splurge and you let discipline go out the window, it's going to be that time of year. So it's clearly nice if your paychecks have a nice bump. So think of it as a way to give yourself sort of a year-end raise. The last thing, and then I'll let you go. My timing was great. I maxed out my 401k right as the market was getting choppy. And I had a few readers ask me, well, hold on now, Charles, you just maxed out your 401k right there at the end of September, right as the market's topping out and getting really choppy here in October. Did you just screw yourself? Did you just put yourself in a bad spot? And the answer is no. How do I put this? I practice what I preach. I've been telling people to keep their 401ks pretty conservatively allocated right now, and I've been doing the same. I have a really high cash allocation to my 401k right now, to where if the market continues to melt down from here, no problem. I still have a lot of dry powder. If the market recovers and goes higher from here, well, I still have some skin in the game too. I have some part of it allocated to stocks, but I'm not really worried about that. As I've mentioned in the past, I'll mention again, I'll mention until I'm blue in the face, the biggest benefit of the 401k is the current year tax break and the employer matching. Now, of course, over a 30-year time horizon, the investment returns do matter more, but we're not talking about 30 years. We're talking about the next 1 year or the next maybe 1 to 5, we'll call it. In that kind of time frame, the employer matching and the tax breaks are vastly more important than the investment returns. So with that said, I would encourage you, if you haven't maxed out your 401k for the year, really try to do that. If you're worried about the market, don't worry about it. Just make your new contributions, or even change your existing allocation. That's fine too. But you can just direct all new contributions to cash, to a money market fund, to a stable value fund, to a short-term bond fund, to whatever, to something very conservative. Nobody ever said you had to put your 401k in stocks. You don't. You can keep it in cash. You can keep it in something conservative. But do try to get the money into it because, as I explained until I'm blue in the face, it's the employer matching and the tax breaks that really make the biggest difference.